See how you do. Do that for 2 weeks, okay? You come back to him 2 weeks later and you go, Doc, my hand's still hurting. You know, arthritis didn't go away. Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead and start eating tomatoes again. Now I want you to stop potatoes. What's the problem? Yeah, you're still eating all them other nightshades still at the same time. You got to plumb stop all of them. And probably one of the best flushing out I found is what y'all are getting ready to do here over the next couple of days is juice fast. Juicing is amazing. If you're doing a long juice fast, it's rare, but it can happen. And I thought of it when the pastor was talking about when he started cramping up. I remember I called Danny one time, and you were there. You're in the same room. And I was having every once in a while folks that were doing a 60-day juice fast, their sodium was dropping. And I think you answered. And then you put Danny on the phone. And Danny goes, "Are you doing celery?" "Yes, 2 stalks each glass." "Go to 4 stalks, you'll be okay." Boom. How long ago was that? It's been a few years ago. Every single person I've had on a 60-day, 90-day, I've encouraged them on a long term, do 4 stalks celery each meal in your juice. Never have I had another problem since Danny told me that. It's amazing. There's plenty of sodium in those 4 stalks of celery. So if you're going to do a juice fast, a long juice fast, like a 60-day, if you went to University of Alabama in Birmingham and you're in significant heart failure, they will juice you for 70 days because the second most expenditure of the heart is digestion of food. And so if you're that typical Birmingham fella or that guy from wherever in backwoods Alabama, and you're eating biscuits and gravy and hog jowl and chitlins and whatever, steak and eggs and baked taters, that's like running up 3 flights of stairs on the heart. And so these doctors, which is the advanced cardiac team, that's one of our best centers in the Southeast, is they will put you on a juice fast because instead of taking 2.5 to 5 hours to digest and working that heart for 2.5 to 5 hours, it's in the blood within 15 to 20 minutes. Digestion's over. Now the heart can rest. And it takes that burden off the heart so it can strengthen faster. So juicing is phenomenal. Stopping the nightshades is huge. And Dr. Agatha said, take a look at wheat because wheat can affect arthritis. She said one cracker with the American wheat can cause arthritis pain for 2 to 2.5 months. You test it. Just test it and see if that's an issue. There's other things. MSM is a great tool to use. Most folks will start out 1 teaspoon twice a day. Some people it works within 3 days. I had a guy it took 3 months before it started working. He said he wouldn't do without it because finally when it kicked in at 3 months, it was amazing. I learned about MSM from my veterinarian when my dog had arthritis. And they use it a lot for dogs and horses. The vets will tell you it doesn't work as well for cats. And you'll do 1 teaspoon twice a day for a week. And then after 2 weeks, you go to 2 teaspoons twice a day. There are some farmers, males, or men that, that really are out there, working hard, like throwing hay and whatever. It may take as much as 2 tablespoons twice a day to work up to that. There's 2 cautions on MSM. One, it cannot be in anything that has chlorine. So you don't want to put it in city water because chlorine neutralizes it. Another item will neutralize it is fruit. Citrus. I'm sorry, citrus. So you don't want to put it in orange juice, lemon juice, or have it in the stomach with citrus. So let's say you want to have oranges for breakfast. Do it about 45 minutes before you have breakfast, and then it should be on out, and then you can have your oranges, your grapefruit for breakfast. Another item is a product by Terry Naturally, and it's called um, uh, Curamed. Curamed, It's equal to about 500 capsules of turmeric. It's kind of like Alimed. Alimed is just the allicin out of the garlic, in which it takes 24 cloves of garlic to make 1 drop of allicin. Well, this cumin, you'd have to have 500 capsules to equal 1 capsule of the curcumin that they have. And the neat thing is a lot of folks will use black pepper to make turmeric the curcumin work. And Terry found that he could take turmeric essential oil and add to the curcumin, and it has the same benefit as the black pepper, and he doesn't have to use the black pepper. And so that works really well for inflammation. They have another product that's called that's Curamed. Then he has one called Curamin. And the Curamin is more for pain, let's say back pain, sciatica, whatever. But some people with arthritis find that the Curamin also is very beneficial. But the big issue you want to do is figure out what's inflammatory in your diet. That's a lot of times it. And so if you want to talk about how to do that, talk to Gracie. Gracie can tell you how to do the elimination program using juicing. How to add things, test it. Add things, test it. And it may be it could be different things for different people. So that's what I do for my mom. I grew up on a farm. My dad took agriculture, and he had my mom taking 30 alfalfa tablets. Now, tablets, remember, are usually at least 50% binder. So then that would be like 15 of just the alfalfa. But Deb would take 30 tablets a day, blend them up in the blender, and then divide that. So 5 or he divided that between the 3 meals, put that in mom's water or meals, and that significantly helped her arthritis. Another thing that can help arthritis is far infrared sauna. I have ladies that will use a far infrared sauna for 20 minutes and tell me that they can't hardly move their hands, but if they use the sauna every day, it significantly helps them in range of motion with their hands. So far infrared sauna is very, very good. Far infrared changes the water molecule in the blood to where you have better perfusion. So those are a couple items you could try. Don't forget, and let me go back. When you're dealing with a chronic disease and you're working with, now why are y'all asking this? Because you're medical missionaries. Yes, you want to know for yourself, but you want to help your family, your neighbors, your children, your coworkers. You want your medical missionaries, and so you're also asking for other people. Don't be selfish and just use it for yourself. So anytime you want to deal with something like this, the first thing is, are they following those 9 laws of health? Remember I added one. What was the 9th one I added? Be happy. Yeah. Address those 9 issues, because those guys are the foundation. If you're doing those guys, you'll see sometimes the problem just plumb goes away. So those are important. Another question. Yes. Core energy. There's a lot of question on core energy, especially post-COVID. We saw core energy drop significantly post-COVID. And again, going back to those laws of health, who's ever ridden a freight train, a steam train? I saw a steam train the other day when I was in Juneau. A steam train takes 2 things to run. It takes water and it takes coal. Our bodies take water and it takes quality nutrition. Remember the car that I talked about, that Hellcat that Richard Petty fixed and cranked up to 1,500 horsepower? He told them it can no longer use gasoline from the gas station. It needs rocket fuel. It needs airplane fuel. Our bodies, God designed us as race cars. We need race car fuel, not the middle of the grocery store. And so the first 2 things to look at on core energy is the person drinking adequate water? Now, water, as you learn in nutrition, water is the train cars that carry the nutrients throughout the body, especially the more distal part of the body, your hands, your feet, your Brain significantly needs water. How much water do we need? University of California says it takes a half a gallon to run a 5-year-old, up to 128 pounds. Now, some of us in this room, not me, us, but some of y'all in this room are within that 128 or less. And so, same as a 5-year-old, but that's to sit on the couch. If you're more active, you need more than. If you are over 128 pounds, is body weight divided by 2, that many ounces to sit on the couch. But if you're more active, then you need to have more. The state of Tennessee tells me I need a gallon of water a day. Why does the state of Tennessee tell me I need a gallon of water a day? What? Okay. Yes, the Tennessee Fire Academy tells me I'm to drink a gallon of water a day. In the event, proactively, I have to go in and fight a house fire. Then, if I fight a house fire in rehab, I'm going to drink more water. So, depending on your activity, if it's hot, you're working in the garden, you're mowing the grass, you're on the tractor working, whatever, you need even more than. But then, as I shared with y'all last year, if you drink more than 2 to 3 ounces of water at a given time, it goes into free flow. And so, if you drink, free flow is where it just goes and you urinate it out. It's kind of like pouring 5-gallon bucket of water on a tomato plant and it runs off versus a drip line, it's going to soak in. So if you drink 8 ounces of water, you're going to absorb 2 to 3 ounces. You're going to urinate off 5 to 6 ounces. Did y'all learn that when y'all did RBTI? Did y'all learn about that in RBTI, hydration? We actually did that in school, and we learned where we, I'll tell you real quick what we did. So the professor the first week said just drink water. Everybody in the classroom was dehydrated. We did labs 4 times a day, 7 days a week on ourselves. The second week, the professor said, do body weight divided by 2, that many ounces. If you're, over 128, or the formula for less than 128, and more based on activity. 75% of the class was dehydrated still by just doing that. Then the professor told us about this. If you drink the free flow, which I'd learned years ago back studying nutrition, but so we did it. So he said, what you do to prevent that is 4 times every half hour, take a mouthful of water, except 15 minutes before you eat, while you eat, 1 hour after you eat. Have you ever heard that before? The whole week, we did our labs 4 times a day, 7 days a week. That third week, everybody in the class was hydrated because we monitored free flow. So when you drink your water, you want to, don't chug it. You'll lose a lot of it. The nutrition that you eat is important. Are you getting quality nutrition? One of the best ways I found to get nutrition, if you really want to pump the body up quick, again, is juicing. Another thing I found is you've got fats, proteins, carbohydrates. To turn fats, proteins, and carbohydrates on, you got to have vitamins. Vitamins are a catalyst that turns on fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. But the problem is you need another catalyst which kicks on vitamins, and that catalyst is minerals. And due to soil erosion, due to we talked about heirloom seeds versus hybrid seeds. Hybrid uptakes 40% of the nutrients out of the soil based on heirloom seeds, according to the University of North Carolina, based on processed foods, based all kinds of things. We do not have proper mineralization. So if you boost with some trace minerals, that's then going to give you 8 cylinders here. Then that's going to kick on your vitamins. Then that's going to kick on your fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. So when you juice and you use trace minerals, that's going to really turbocharge, like NOS in a car, race car, and turbocharge those nutrients to give you more energy. Another one that for energy, core energy, is we forget about sleep, and those hours of sleep before midnight. And I'm still going back to those 8 laws, aren't I? Why am I going back to the 8 laws? Yes, I won't say manufactured because we were not manufactured. We were not manufactured. But I used to have a Chevy pickup. Now I've got a GMC pickup because someone ran into the back of me and totaled it a year ago. Well, it's probably pretty similar. But when I had no Ford pickup years ago, do you want to use a Ford pickup manual when you're driving a GMC? No. So God's manual that He has given us, those basic laws of health, if you don't follow them, it just ain't going to run right. If you don't change the oil every 3,000 miles and you go, well, maybe you're using synthetic and you go 5 or 6, but let's say you don't change oil but every 20,000. Or maybe you decide I'm not going to use oil. I'm going to use bacon grease. And instead of putting water in the radiator, you say, I'm going to put Coca-Cola. It just ain't going to run right. Our bodies, those basic laws of health, are not just what grandma or mom talked about. It's what God talked about. And that's so important. Sleep is huge. The hours of sleep before midnight is worth twice the hours of sleep after midnight. The other is exercise. And again, going back to those laws of health. Dr. Um, Kempner at Duke University, when he looked at little humans, he found little humans exercised 4 times a day, recess in the morning, recess after dinner, recess in the afternoon. They went home, played, and had chores. And he found that it significantly improved many things, including that core strength, exercising 4 times a day. Why? You increase vascular flow. Perfect health is perfect circulation. We're told that in inspiration. It increases oxygenation. It increases the lymphatic flow to get rid of the toxins. And so I find exercising 4 times a day makes a huge difference. And you say, Walt, I'm plumb wore out. How do I exercise? Well, I'll walk 1 minute 4 times a day. Start out and then keep building up. A mini trampoline is a tremendous tool because it's going to build bone density. It's going to increase lymphatic flow by tenfold. When you jump on a mini trampoline, your lymphatic pumps pump 10 times what they normally do. Be careful, don't do it too much. It'll make you sick at first. Regular trampoline works fine, but start off slow. So those are some basic things. If a person eats a healthy meal, especially if you're juicing, you probably don't need multivitamins. So I don't recommend multivitamins unless that person comes in and you start talking about eating healthy, and you can tell, Pastor, you can tell if you start talking about gospel stuff and it kind of just glazes over. Well, you start talking about starting eating healthy and whatever, and it just kind of glazes over, and you can tell, especially in men, maybe because we're men and we know how we think, and boom, I can tell he ain't gonna follow it. But do I want compliance? Why do I want compliance? It works. Why else do I want compliance? Why am I talking to this guy? Salvation. I want to point the sin sick soul to Christ. I want this guy to get better. Let's go back to finance. Bottom line, 2 lines. The bottom line of what I want to happen in our little store is to make people healthier so that their brain will work better, so they can discern God's word, so that we can point them to Christ. That's the bottom line of what I'm after with my staff and with myself. So if he spits that hook when I'm telling him, no, you don't want to eat that whole jowl and chitlins. Okay, let's see, how can I negotiate? This guy wants core energy. Let's try a good multivitamin, maybe a liquid multivitamin, get it in there even quicker. And so there are people I'll use multivitamins with. Yes, I like the minerals, trace minerals, because we're just not getting that in nutrition. But I'll probably look at a multivitamin for that person. Another item for core energy is gut health. if you have poor gut health, you just ain't going to run good. And so the you may need a probiotic. Uh, and it's amazing how much eating at the same time every day affects gut health. Masticating the food to a pureed state before you swallow it. How many times do y'all chew your food? My kids give me a hard time. Um, my wife gives me a hard time because she's got things to do. Why are you taking so long? But my kids give me a hard time. They count how many times I chew. They tell me I chew around 60, 70 sometimes per bite. I don't pay attention. I just chew it until it's mush. And then it's mush, I swallow it. But when you don't masticate it, you don't have teeth in your stomach. And also you're gonna mix that saliva with it, the amylase, the protease, the lipase. You'll miss a third of digestion when you do not have proper mastication. And so you want to, because that first part of digestion that happens in your stomach, you've got to have it thoroughly impregnated with your in those digestive enzymes. And you may need to take added digestive enzymes because we've now learned that food doesn't have the enzymes in it like it's supposed to. Yes,
Acquaintance of mine does colonics on people, and she's seen whole grapes come out of people.
I believe it.
Like,
I believe it. Yeah. So when why does food go bad? Why does food not have a good long shelf life? Well, we used to think it was just rotting. Well, in 1902, 1903, they started using a byproduct of pharmaceuticals to spray on it to make it have a longer shelf life. Well, they found out that they could hybridize it, and it hybridized out some stuff that was causing it to, they think, rot faster, or they thought rot faster. Well, now they've learned it wasn't rotting; it was digesting. What they hybridized out was amylase, protease, and lipase. God put in our food digestive enzymes to assist with digestion. And when we eat food that is hybrid seeds, you're not going to have those digestive enzymes. So you need heirloom seeds. They're now finding that the organs that produce enzymes in our body are actually they're larger than normal because they're having to work harder to try to make up for not having it in our food when we don't eat uh, those foods. So back to exercise for core energy. Um, do some exercises, do some stretching, but exercise is huge to build those muscles. Also, yes, and anxiety went crazy after COVID. Again, going back to the basics. Um, are they following those laws of health? The first one for us to look at: do we trust God? Do we trust God? I had this girl come in. I may have shared with y'all before. Pastor, one of them typical Appalachian mountain women that you met when you were down there in North Carolina. Just an old country woman. She could be mean as a striped snake. She'd get tore up real quick. You know what I mean by tore up? Upset. Nice lady, as long as she is happy. Well, she came in not long ago, and she had some issues, and I told her that you know. I said, "What's your stress level?" She said 0. Well, she must think 0 means a lot and 10 means none. So I said 0 means no stress and 10 means really bad stress. I said, so what's your stress level? And I'm just no country boy in the country mountains of Tennessee. And so I just talk mountain to these people. And I said, so what's your stress? 0 being no stress, 10 being the most stress. She said, 0. How's it 0? She says, well, around 2 years ago, I found Jesus and I just give everything to him now. Did she find the answer? She did. She says, what can I do? If I can't fix it, why worry about it? And she ain't tore up now. Sometimes we think we got to fix it, especially mothers. They got to fix everything. True? Number one, give it to Jesus. Look at your nutrition. Is the brain getting what it needs? Are you getting the hydration it needs? Are you getting the exercise? Are you getting the fresh air, the sunshine, the sleep? Sleep is huge, huge. People come in, what time do you go to sleep? Well, I finally get to bed about 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Or mothers wake up about 2 o'clock worrying about the kids. May stay up for a couple hours and finally fall asleep again, worrying about the grandkids. Y'all know what I'm talking about, mothers, grandmothers? And so sleep is huge regarding anxiety. Yes, there are things that I can learn. There's an old doc at Florida Hospital back in 1977. He told me, he said, Walt, if you want to help folks with stress, the best thing I found was B complex. You can do a B complex 100, one each meal. It's amazing how much that can help with stress. Take it with a meal, take it with some water. Some people it hits their stomach kind of hard. Another one that I learned from Neil Nedley is lithium orotate. That's not the synthetic lithium that you use to give patients. That's lithium orotate, which or lithium is aspartate and orotate, and orotate I find works much superior than aspartate. But lithium orotate is an element in the ground. When you're stressed, you dump lithium. You dump B, you dump magnesium. And so lithium orotate, somewhere between 5-10 milligrams, 3 times a day, significantly can help with anxiety. Another one is magnesium. Remember, I mentioned the hospitalist in Chattanooga said that 90 to 95% of the patients admitted to his hospital are deficient in magnesium. And magnesium is significant to help with brain function with things such as magnesium, such as anxiety, I'm sorry. And then there's the big guns. The big guns, the best thing I have ever found that really, boom, stops an anxiety attack very, very well. I was standing at the counter one day. I was helping a lady check out, and I had a couple people there. And I see this girl come in. You're always situational awareness is important in firefighting. And a girl walks in, walks around, catch her out of peripheral. She's over here, goes and standing in front of my essential oils. Who grew up dealing with cows? Did your daddy tell you how to look at cows and tell you if that cow ain't doing good? Look at its eyes, look at its gait, look at its head. You know what I'm talking about. You can tell if she's sick or not. And so you can use the same philosophy on people. And so I could tell this girl wasn't doing too good. She was just something's wrong. And so I told this lady, I said, hang on just a sec. I'll be right back. So I walked back over about this far away, and I said, and she's in her mid-20s. And I said, ma'am, you okay? Can I help you? She says, I am having the worst anxiety attack I've ever had. And I mean, she's about to be Mount St. Helen. She's about to blow up. And I said, hang on just a minute. I might have something that might help you. So I walked around, I went back to the back, and I got my vetiver and my lavender. Now, y'all know that I have Tourette's, and some of y'all may have seen me, shake some here sitting out there. Sometimes I do. Usually it's pretty well controlled by lifestyle. And so, but there's times, especially if I'm late. If I'm late somewhere, I don't do too good. And so that's why we need to leave at 1 o'clock. And so I'll put on a drop of lavender on my wrist. Transdermally, it goes into the blood, here where you feel your pulse. Rub it together. Then I put a drop of vetiver. Rub it together and breathe it. And just breathe it. And I said, so I put it on me first because this girl did not know me. Now, you probably can't get your doctor when you go into him with anxiety and you say, can you try it first? Let me see if it's bad or whatever. But she didn't know me yet. It's the first time I ever seen her, and I wanted her to trust me. So I put it on me, and I said, I use this myself. And I said, can I put it on you? And so, but what did I do first? I prayed that God would bless it because it is not the vetiver, it is not the lavender that heals. God blesses the lavender, He blesses the vetiver. And who gets the glory? God does, not the vetiver and the lavender. So she says, yes. So I put it on her, and we prayed, put it on her. I said, I'll be right back. It's going to take a couple of minutes. Just give me a moment. Let me finish helping this lady out. So I walk back over, and I finish checking this lady out. As I'm finishing checking her out, Walter finishes up helping a lady over at the where my herb cabinet is. And I said, Walter. And so he knew that meant now. And so he goes over and he starts talking to this girl. And it was a total different voice. She had a total different voice. And before I helped the next lady, I said, hang on just a second. So I walked back over and I said, and Walter stops. And I said, so is it helping at all or how's it doing? She said, what did you just do to me? I said, what? You want to hear it. Let's hear it again. What did you just do to me? I said, it's not what I just did. Why? I said, why? She said, I was having the most, the largest anxiety attack I've ever had. And it is gone. What did you just do to me? I said, it's not what I did. It's what Jesus just did. Do you see how the right hand is the opening, the hand that opens the door? See, it is not the right hand that is the important thing. As you open the door, what walks through? The body, and the body is the gospel. What is the most important? The gospel. But God gave us something to open that door so that we don't have to go through that door like a bull in a china closet. I have guys who and I've shared with y'all before. My guys on the fire hall, they got a lot of testosterone. They're young boys, and they want to kick that door in. And I say, guys, just check the doorknob and see if you can go in. Or we may have a car that you saw in up here, the big guy in. I mean, he wants to take the jaws of life. I mean, he just wants to cut that car right open and get them people out. I said, in. Walter, boys, check the doorknob first, see if that car door opens. You know? And so it is the right hand that opens it and allows the gospel to go through. When we go in like a bull in a china closet, we're jerking the hook. And that they can spit the hook. So that is a great tool. And I can tell you story after story after story where we've used the lavender and the vetiver. It's amazing. Those are the big things that I use for anxiety. Yes, ma'am. Depression. As I mentioned last week, when I was flying back from Rwanda, March 20, it was a day and a half. I came through Chicago and back into the U.S., and a day and a half later, the doors were shut, or I would have been stuck in Rwanda for at least 6 months. And I was coming back on the plane, and I was hearing about this. We were hearing about this thing, COVID, and so I'm doing some research, to try to see what's going on. Is it really a big issue? And I noticed that depression. I was reading an article from NIH, and their hypothesis was very shortly depression would see the number one diagnosis in America is stress. And they said within just like a year or two, depression was going to exceed stress in the United States. NIH did. I'm sorry, WHO, World Health Organization. That did not happen because of COVID. COVID just shot stress up. It shot anxiety up. Depression is still out there significant. Depression's still very similar to what we would do with anxiety, stress, the nutrition, the water. Water is very important. Um, who remembers Dr. Walter Strachan? Did you know Dave Westbrook? Dave's father-in-law, Laura's father, Dr. Walter Strachan, psychiatrist. Strachan, uh, anybody from else? He worked at UCI for a while. He would spend a lot of time at UCI helping Dr. Agatha. And Strachan told me about a hospital up in the New England area. They would not take you as a patient for depression unless you agreed to drink 1 gallon of water a day. They wouldn't even take you unless you agreed to take a gallon of water a day. Another thing that significantly helped with depression is going to another study. It was a female study, and Dr. Phil Collins told me this one. A study he read where women going to bed by 9 o'clock at night, every night, significantly help with depression. Again, it's going back to these laws of health. Exercise is huge for depression. It's good for the brain. Nutrition. Magnesium is known as the depression drug. They literally call magnesium the depression drug. It helps a lot with depression. I find lithium orotate works very, very well to help with depression. I had a gentleman who came to me. He was a Christian. Um, he was Amish and a very, very strong Christian fella. And he came to me and he said, God's impressing me that my lithium is low. And I said, well, usually, I mean, this guy was so depressed he was suicidal and he could not work. And he says, God's telling me my lithium's low. I'm just impressed that. And I said, it's a good possibility. So we did the lithium, but at that time I only knew of going up to 40 milligrams a day. And that's all we did. And it didn't help. And he just said, Walt, he called me back and he said, Walt, God's telling me my lithium's low. And I said, I don't know about giving any more at this time. So I don't want to hurt you. So if I don't know, I don't want to just do something to hurt you. And so he went to another fella. Well, and he had him, he went to his physician. Physician said, no, your lithium's not low. And it actually was low. So he went to another guy, and the other guy had him over 100 milligrams a day. And boom, he popped right out of that depression. He's doing very well now. For several years, he hadn't called me. But for a while, I'd told Mary Lou and the rest of the folks at work, if this guy calls me, stop me, whatever I'm doing. Because when he calls me, he's suicidal. Call me. And he'll call, and he'll say, Walt, I say, how you doing? I ain't doing good. Have you taken your lithium orotate? I knew you'd remember. All he could remember to do was call me. He couldn't remember to take the lithium. He'd quit taking it for a while, and he would just bottom out again. So I think he's learned his lesson. He just takes lithium all the time, and the lithium orotate. But B complex is good. Um, also on magnesium, I'm on depression. Um, you want a vitamin D level, and also on anxiety, you want a vitamin D level. Even though the lab test will tell you 30 to 100, neurologists will tell you less than 60 significantly affects cognitive function. The Society of Internal Medicine will tell you if you're on the low end of that 30, it decreases your, now where do they come up with this? I don't know. It decreases your cognitive processing speed by 394%. So don't be on that low end. Be up around 80 to 100. Be 100. But it's very, very important for cognitive function for vitamin D to be at around that 100, especially if we're having cognitive issues. And it's not by how much you take, it's by what your blood level is. And, it could be you're low in magnesium because magnesium helps you absorb the vitamin D. K2 is also very good. I don't like mixing K2 and vitamin D together because some people may need a lot of vitamin D to get it up to where it belongs. And when they couple the K2, they may be taking too much K2 then because there is a limit on K2 on how much you can take. So those are some things. Another one that's good for depression is music, is classical music. You can do classical music in the morning. It's a little upbeat, and then some nice classical music through the day, and then some calming classical music at night. There's research to prove that does help with depression. Y'all up here, you're more prone to, SAD, especially in the wintertime. And so those lights, the full spectrum lights, that you can use while you're reading your Bible. That full spectrum light can help. And what that's doing is it's converting the tryptophan was in the flaxseed, and you need flaxseed, 3 tablespoons twice a day, 3 tablespoons twice a day. Grind, eat within 15 minutes because it oxidizes very fast. But if you take whole flaxseed, it go through you like birdseed. And so that flaxseed has tryptophan. So as you get sunshine or that light in the wintertime, it converts the tryptophan in the flaxseed into serotonin. And that's what you're needing for that depression, is increase that serotonin level. Now, if you eat a big supper, we've been talking about the issues of eating big suppers. Also, if you don't go to bed when it gets dark, your pineal gland will then convert the serotonin into melatonin. And so that process is important. Another thing is omega 3s are important for depression. Um, your flaxseed does have good source of omega 3s. Chia seeds are a great source of omega 3s. Walnuts are the best nut for the brain. English walnuts are the best nut for the brain. It's also good for sperm motility for guys who are wanting to get, they're wanting to get pregnant. The other is black walnuts are also good for the brain, just not as good as English walnuts. Next question. Yes. ADHD. Again, we're talking. There's a guy I worked with. He was the top surgeon in Philadelphia, and he also did trauma care, and we used to work together. And I'd ask him. He said, "Walt, you've got to identify what organ is being affected, and then you got to identify organ or system, and then you got to figure out what secondary or tertiary organs or systems that may affect that primary organ or system." And what you then do is take anything away from those organs or systems that may cause harm. And then you provide those organs and systems what they need to run well. So when we talk about anxiety, depression, ADHD, bipolar, schizophrenia, any of those, they're brain issues. So it's very similar. You're doing a lot the same thing. Now, there is a physician out there that's doing a lot of research on sunshine, melatonin. He's finding that he can actually stop cancer by melatonin. Isn't that cool? He's doing 180 milligrams HS, hour of sleep, and especially breast cancer and prostate cancer. He said it's a home run hitter. If it's metastasized, he's doing 60 to 120 milligrams 4 times a day, QID 4 times a day. But this melatonin researcher, physician, he was a cancer doctor, and he's finding that it's not the chemotherapy, it's the melatonin is what's really stopping the cancer with these people. And he says, if John's got cancer and I can stop it, well, he's alive right now. And if I can stop the growth, it's only progression of the growth of cancer that's going to kill him. And so if I can stop the growth of it, he'll keep living, which is an interesting philosophy. Well, this doctor is also doing a lot of research on when you go to sleep and the effects on cancer, but also on ADHD. And he's finding that when it gets dark, children need to be asleep. He even agrees that adults need to be asleep. Now, sometimes country people have horse sense. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all country people. Y'all got horse sense. You're raised on farms. Sometimes city slickers ain't got a lick idea what's going on. Well, this old country boy comes in one time, and he's out of South Carolina, and he hadn't had a lot of education, and he's just an old country boy, but he was smart. I asked him, had made a lot of money, had an excellent job, made a lot of money, and he was having some problems, and one of the issues was sleep. And I said, why does it get dark at night? Now, people want to tell me because of the rotation and all this stuff going on. He said, because that's the way God made it. Perfect answer. He was smart. God made it to get dark at night, and we made our own sunshine at nighttime. And for ADHD, I had a niece come live with us for 6 months. And The things that we found significant were consistency in when they eat and what they do. Children need consistency. We had no television at our house. Well, we did. We had a TV that we could watch family uh, DVDs. That's it. So she didn't get to watch TV. Back then, they didn't have iPads and all that kind of stuff. We didn't even have iPhones back then, or cellular phones back then. Well, we did have them bricks. Um, we gave her flaxseed. We gave her um, B complex. I didn't know about the lithium ortate back then. We gave her grapeseed extract. I believe consistency is what she needed. She needed discipline. Kids like discipline. They need discipline. And we gave her a whole food plant based diet. Nothing with any types of dyes in it. And now we know, where that's going. That's finally going the right direction. But there was no processed. Mary Lou did everything scratch. It was just I found the nutrition was a big part of it all also. But I found expectation. There's a law in business. It's called the law of expectation. If you expect this much from your staff, you'll get this much from your staff. If you expect this much from your staff, you'll get this much from your staff. And so expecting them consistently, I found to also be a big benefit. But the flaxseed, for those omega 3s, the nutrition was a big part of that, and sleep. Mm-hmm. I'd use the same thing. You got the same brain. Yep. Yep. And the other thing I think is important for adults is learn to train your brain. Sometimes we waller in the mud. You know what I'm talking about? And sometimes it's fun to waller in the mud. But we don't need to waller in the mud. If there's a problem, we need to we need to assess it. Is it something that I can do with God's help? If it's not anything I can't do, if it's something I can't do, give it to God and do not take it back. Satan's going to go, it's yours, it's yours, it's yours. And you go, that ain't mine. Now go on, get out of here. It's God's. Go talk to him about that. And so I find for ADHD, for adults, a lot of times they have a problem with that OCD of problems, thinking about them, thinking about them. And I think that's important to give that away. Yes, ma'am. Sleep's a big one, especially post COVID. We see a lot more sleep issues. And the two big problems I find, not as much waking up, though it can be a problem if they didn't get their sleep. But the biggest two issues is falling because they're not getting up because they didn't get their 8 hours of sleep. So one is falling asleep, two is staying asleep. Now my problem is falling asleep. Now I shared with y'all that I used to be a night person, and I am ready to go to sleep, but I have a hard time turning my brain off because I'm used to having 200 and some employees working for me, and so I still think that way of thinking I need to plan that way so I have all them busy getting their job done, so we're running that battleship. But I don't have 200 and some employees no more, and so my brain's and plus the other problem is I make lists. And there's days not one thing is crossed off on that list. And that drives me nuts because there's a list already for tomorrow. And now I got to move that list to tomorrow. And I do not want to do that. And so I'll lay down, and though I'm tired, I can't turn this off. And so usually Mary Lou will identify this issue. And she'll say, take some ashwagandha. And I'll take 2 ashwagandha, and it just turns my brain down so I can go to sleep. There's sometimes when I get to work, she'll give me 1 or 2 ashwagandhas and say, you need to slow down a little bit. Um, yes, 10 minutes. And so it doesn't make you go to sleep. It just helps calm you down so you can go to sleep. Getting people to sleep is a huge issue, and it's not a cookie cutter, and everybody's different. And the other problem is what may work now, just like deodorant. You know how it may work for 2 months and quits working. You go find you another deodorant that works. Same thing here. And so you may finally find something, and then it quits working. Let me just share things that are possibilities that may help you. One is don't go to sleep with wrath. I think that's important. Um, there are people who find that a mini trampoline, just the bouncing, not jumping, but bouncing, say 30 minutes, hour before you're going to sleep, that helps some people fall asleep. Some people, you don't drink a mess of water before going to sleep because that can make you wake up later. Don't eat a big supper because that has a propensity, one, just to make you feel too full, but the other is if you eat within 3 to 4 hours of laying down, the food has a propensity to putrefy and ferment. Well, what's that going to do in the blood? Well, that can wake you up. So not eating a big supper can really help with quality of sleep. You need that flaxseed in the morning so that you in that sunshine so you can make enough serotonin that you can then turn it into melatonin to help you sleep. Then there's a clean room, not going to bed with a dirty room or a messy room, not dirty but messy room. Also, write down what you're thinking about on a piece of paper. Let that piece of paper remember it. So then the next morning you can get it off that piece of paper and stick it back in your head. So you're not just saying, oh, I don't want to forget this tomorrow. I don't want to forget that tomorrow. Another item that can happen is we were talking about last night is that if you wake up in the night and your melatonin's being kicked on, doing well, and the light is any color than red, it turns down to turns off your melatonin. And then you have a problem going back to sleep. And so you wake up and go, what time is it? Boom. What color is that? Yeah. You just turned down to turned off your melatonin. So you need, or you say, your phone goes ding. Who's that? Is it one of the kids? Oh no, it's somebody over in Africa trying to tell me something for tomorrow. Y'all know what that's like. Um, you don't want this in the room with you. The challenge for me is it might be a fire chief from North Carolina texting me, Walt, we got a problem on the interstate. We need help. So I have to have that near me, unfortunately. So when it dings and I look at it, boom, it's not red and it wakes me up. Or you get up to go to the bathroom and the light's not red. So put a Christmas light, a little red light in your night light. Put a red light in your bathroom. We used to have that in the fire hall because when the alarm would go off and wake up, light's white, and you're trying to put on your socks and put on your clothes. Well, we put a red light bulb in. So when the alarm went off, it was a red light came on, and we were able to see better. And we'd get clothed and run out the door and jump on the fire truck, and we were gone. Any color other than red will wipe out your melatonin significantly to totally. That's important. But then what could you take? Some people take magnesium. Some people take L-theanine. It's an amino acid, works quite well for some people. Some people use a combination. It's called slumber. Let's see, tranquil sleep. Mary Lou uses it, and it has L-theanine. It's got 5-HTP, which 5-HTP is like tryptophan, and it has a little melatonin. Now, some people find that melatonin gives them vivid dreams or nightmares. Well, according to the melatonin experts out there, that could just be because of the quality of the melatonin. And I find that true for a lot of people, that when they're taking that 180 milligrams of melatonin, it needs to be, and we're using a good company that's a good quality. It can make a difference versus some of the other that hasn't been managed as well, and it's not as good a quality. Some people find copaiba. Who knows what copaiba is? Copaiba is phenomenal. It's the most anti-inflammatory phytochemical in the world. It's huge. They use it for cancer. I've got a guy now, he's gone over 4 years, significant epileptic, was having grand mal seizures daily, sometimes multiple times a day. He's not had a seizure in over 4 years, and he's using Copaiba. Amazing. It's great for essential tremors. But Copaiba, for some people, it helps them fall asleep. Um, some people find that CBD helps them fall asleep. Do the one without THC. Um, pardon? SAMe can help some people fall asleep. Yes. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Valerian. I'll finish with this. I'm out of time. It was 9/11. And our patient, we had a lot of patients out of New York City, a lot of patients out of um, DC. John and I were working. You were there in 9/11, weren't you? And our patients would come in and they just couldn't sleep. And so I called Dr. Strachan and I said, "What do I need to do?" Psychiatrist. And he said, give them 2 tablespoons of valerian powder, 2 tablespoons of skullcap powder, 2 tablespoons of hops powder, 2 cups of water, make an infusion. He says it works when someone dies, the spouse is in hysteria. It works every time. Give it to them at 8 o'clock. We did that. Next morning, everybody reported it did not work. So I called Strachan. He says, "Really?" He's okay. He says, "Do full dose 6 o'clock, full dose 8 o'clock." Next morning, did not work. So I called Strachan. He says, "These guys are really fractured." He says, "Keep backing up every 2 hours. It's not going to hurt them." So we did full dose 4 o'clock, full dose 6 o'clock, full dose 8 o'clock. Didn't work. Went to 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and that worked. We did that for 6 months. That's how long it took for those folks. But the last item that you may want to try is something called a wet sheet pack. I had a guy we just couldn't get this guy to sleep. I mean, he was so bad. He came to us with sleep deprivation. He was going crazy, crazy. I mean, he would have attacks that he would go and throw lamps and just go plumb nuts. And so we put him in a wet sheet pack. And if you want to know what a wet sheet pack is, ask Gracie. Gracie can tell you. And he would fall asleep. And there's just a number of tools that you can look, and you just have to find which tool works the best. And um, let me finish with one thing that I've learned. As I work with cancer, as I work with whatever, the question is, why? Why? Why did I get cancer? Why did my wife die with cancer? Why? Well, my grandson taught me. At that time, he was 3 years old. And Mary Lou was every night, she's on the phone with those kids, all 6 of them, talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. And that's good. And she tells Aiden something, Carson's son, and he goes, "But why?" So she tells him again, and he goes, "But why?" Y'all remember that, don't you? So finally, you come to the point as a grandparent or as a parent, and you have to say, "Johnny, you're just going to have to trust me. When you get bigger, you're going to understand." And that is what Jesus says. When we have the question, why? I want to know now, just like Aiden wanted to know now. You understand the urgency. But Jesus says, you just ain't big enough yet. You don't need to understand why your folks are having financial trouble at 3 years old. You don't need to understand calculus yet. And Jesus says, when you get to heaven, I'll explain it to you. And you'll have an infinite mind, not a finite mind. Let's close with prayer. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, give us patience that we can trust you. And Lord, as we started this meeting, we talked about something we talked throughout the whole time, and that is prayer. We can just talk with you when we have a problem. But Lord, teach us to listen, that not just that we talk, but we can hear what you want us to do. Lord, as we go home, we ask that you send your angels before us, keep us safe, and Lord, bring us back again next year if we're able to come. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Let's sing our closing number. Number 219. Stand with me if you would, as we sing 219, and we'll sing the first verse only. Never part again. There is a land of pure delight, where the eternal reigns. Infinite day excludes the night, and pleasures banish pain. We're traveling to Emmanuel's land. We soon shall hear the trumpet sound, and soon we shall with Jesus reign, and never, never part again. What? Never part again? No, never part again. What? Never part again? No, never part again. And soon we shall with Jesus reign, and never, never part again. Thank you. May be seated. Well, it's time to move on to our last couple of activities. We're going to have lunch here in a few minutes. We've got first overs and leftovers, and ladies have put together some stuff. Let's bring all our food together, and we'll share a fellowship lunch over here. If you have families with kids, please take advantage of the picnic tables outside, especially, so we don't have any accidents on the carpet inside. If you can help us out with that, we'd appreciate it. Let's, as soon as we get out of here, let's move out. If we want to have conversations, let's have them outside the tent. And then, gentlemen, if you do whatever Doug and Marvin say, we'll get this place broke down as quick as possible, okay? Let's